Drivers are in the cars, and the championship led by Jose Maria Lopez, as it has been every day of the season. Lopez with an entire maximum score race weekend, 55 points lead over Ivan Muller, his closest rival and teammate, and a further 37 behind in third place, Sebastian Loeb. Well, there are 17 cars ready to go out in qualifying. As ever, 3 periods of qualifying. Q1 for everybody, Q2 for the fastest 12, Q3 fastest 5 of those to decide the grids for race 1 and for race 2 here on Sunday afternoon in Japan. Well, Jose Maria Lopez, Harry, with the advantage in terms of a big cushion. Essentially, he can just get out the car now and walk away, and Ivan won't pass him, even if he scores every point there is to be scored. So it's nice to have that little cushion, but for Muller, the pressure again is chasing hard. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a big advantage to have as a driver, knowing that you're a full race weekend with maximum score ahead of your nearest rival, who happens to be your teammate as well. So it's unlikely that Muller's all of a sudden going to find a massive advantage over Lopez there. So yeah, it's a nice situation to be in at this point in the season. The Hondas have been very fast so far this weekend, quicker than the Citroens, but will that translate into qualifying pace? Cars heading out on track here at Motegi at the Twin Ring for the first of our qualifying periods. 20 minutes of qualifying practice for all 17 entries. And the idea here is to make it into the top 12. If you don't, your position will be sealed for both races, 13 on down. Thiago Monteiro, one of the last to go out, and Harry, this is going to be a very difficult thing to juggle for Thiago, for Victor Shapovalov's driver Nick Katzberg. Both of them have had an engine change after big crashes in Villarreal last time out. That incidentally is why there's no Nika Racing Honda. Big crash for Nestor Girolami. Car subsequently wasn't repaired in time to make the boat to come to China. But the 2 cars that have come here, they're going to start at the back of the race 1 grid no matter what they do. So they've got to try and aim for the front of the race 2 grid. They've got to try and aim for 9th or 10th in qualifying. But they're not going to be alone. I mean, it's a really dangerous game to try and play, but they've got no option now. Now, we've seen that go so wrong for people as well, like not just this year, but it's one of the things that's sounds easy, but when you think there's probably only 4 or 5 cars who can actually realistically have a stab at getting on the front of the grid anyway, and that means if you're not in those top 4 or 5, that's where you're going as well. You're aiming for 8, 9, 10, so it's very easy to get bumped out of that and into 11th and 12th, and that'll ruin your entire weekend. And the question is, which of the expected front runners are going to be in the top 5 group? Well, not Monteiro. It would just absolutely crucify his weekend if he even attempted to get in the top 5. So we've got Gabriele Tarquini, who's been fastest in every track session so far, Norbert Michelic, those are the 2 Hondas, and then you've got to look at all 4 Citroens as potentially being in there: Lopez and Loeb and Muller and Mar. Yeah. And on pace, I don't know, possibly maybe Hugo Vallant, maybe Tom Chilton, maybe Tom Coronel. Those 3 Chevys have each, at one stage or another, been inside the top 10, and if you take a couple out, they might have a shot at a top 5. I mean, they've all been capable of getting in there. So it's interesting because the Chevrolet seem to be struggling this weekend, if free practice is anything to go by. We've only had, I think, 1 Chevrolet in the top 5, which was Tom Coronel in FP2. Yeah, that's pretty unusual for Chevrolet, and I think that for the 2nd weekend in a row, they've been occupying the last 7 places on the grid, which bad news if you're in a Chevrolet. But they have lost a little bit of weight since Portugal, but they're only 10 kilos different from where they were. So they're still 50 kilos behind the Citroen, but they're now relatively heavier compared to the Lada and the Honda. It's not a massive amount, is it? See all the purple sectors coming up: Norbert Michelic, Sebastian Loeb, Jose Maria Lopez. First lap out will be the quickest, at least the quickest that we've had so far. Fastest lap we had at the end of FP2, we finally dropped below a 1 minute 57. Only one man has been able to do that. That was Gabriele Tarquini, a 56.96. And talking about the pace of the Chevys, Tom Coronel, as he comes across the line, second fastest. In the 3 sessions we've had so far, a sort of unofficial testing yesterday and then 2 free practices, his positions have been 11th, 13th and then 5th. So you've got to look at the final session there as being a new tyre run.
Yeah.
And you get 5th place, his potential, as long as everybody else was also on new tyres in FP2, and from the faster times, you think they pretty much are going to have to have tried new tyres in FP2, or you're going into qualifying a bit blind.
It would certainly look that way, but we've also got to remember that despite the weight difference as well, over the summer break that we've just had, all of the cars and manufacturers have tested and done quite a lot of development. I think the Chevrolet is the only one which has been sort of left behind a little bit. Lada have done quite a lot. Citroën certainly have. They've been working on their braking and stability from the rear end, and Honda have also been doing quite a bit of testing, especially for these type of events.
Well, if Armola has just gone fastest, Norbert Mikkel is second, having confidently predicted that Nick Katzberg would go for a top 10 reverse. He's 4th fastest at the moment. Ugo Valente in front of him, Rob Huff behind. Huff's car stopped out on track, incidentally, at the end of FP2, or at the beginning of FP2 rather. He'd only completed 3 laps, and he and Ivar Muller propped up the timesheets. They were the slowest 2 cars in second free practice. Hardly the ideal run into qualifying, but clearly that hasn't worried Muller at all. Did suggest at the time that with limited knowledge of the track, it might well be that 1 or 2 of the Citroëns had gone for something of a radical setup, just to either count it in or count it out. And whatever Muller had done on his car, he only actually did 10 laps compared to 13 of Tarquini. Whatever he had set up on his car, I think they pretty much will have counted that out for the weekend. On board with Nicole Lapierre, new name to the championship. First time ever, as far as I'm aware, racing a front-wheel drive car. So he's in the Lada Vesta that would otherwise normally have been driven by Jaap van Lagen. Van Lagen dropped relatively close to the race by the team in favour of Lapierre, who is a favoured son of Hugues de Schoenack at Orica. Lots of prototype experience with Orica-run Peugeots and with Toyota as well. But
that car seems to be the front-wheel drive virginity taker for these GT drivers, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the first car that Jaap van Lagen has driven, which is driven from the front end as well.
Yeah. Well, Van Lagen at least had previous experience with the Lada team. Nick Katzberg had not driven front-wheel drive at all. It's interesting that Van Lagen lost the drive rather than Katzberg, and I'm not quite sure how that came about. Not sure that Jaap is either, and I'm sure that Nick's not that familiar with the ins and outs of it either. Thiago Monteiro, again, confidently expect him to be looking to try and get 10th place or 9th at worst in Q2. Stefano D'Aste might be an interesting fish. Not quite sure how many of the upgrades have finally made it onto his car. The Munich Motorsport car's been fairly upgrade free this season. Tom Coronel's car also. The problem with the upgrades is that they are available, they're just not free.
Yeah.
And when you're stretched on budget, they're nice, but
yeah, it's a stripy option but if you have to have it, and it looks more and more like that is the case. But that's quite a good time for D'Aste though, and Valente obviously up there in 3rd, so yeah, I don't know, maybe this morning they weren't running at maximum map on their engines or something, just to preserve them a little bit.
Yeah, entirely possible. Thiago Monteiro yet to complete a lap. And habitually as well, Gabriele Tarquini yet to complete a lap. Gabriele does this every single qualification. Goes out, comes straight back in, does something. And I don't know whether it's like a nervous tick, but he always does it. Always goes out, never sets a lap, comes back in. And while the others are out putting in a banker or, you know, having a first run, he's in the pits having some changes made. or having a cup of tea, or...
Yeah, I wonder if it is. It's one of those pressure situations. Perhaps he feels he performs better when he has to.
So what's Thiago going to... Is he just going to keep trying to figure out what a... Well, first thing is he's got to get into the top 12.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he won't be in a position to go through into Q2, which is where the top 10 positions on the race 2 grid are decided. In fact, top 11 and 12. Yeah, now he's got to set a pace and set a time. Jose Maria Lopez watching the timing on his device in the cockpit.
I would imagine as well on that device. They're probably showing them a little bit of data, because that looked like his data engineer coming over. So you might have a slight overlay which you can show him something which he's doing different in a corner to Muller's lap, because Muller's lap is obviously the fastest Citroen and faster than they've gone all weekend. So there will be something to learn from that. Yeah,
and that's entirely valid if it is available.
That was close. Bononi had a big old sideways air off the curb. You don't want to get it wrong in there either, because you're in that tunnel. There's not a lot of runoff into the wall on the outside.
No, there's not, is there? It does happen very occasionally at Suzuka when you go through the tunnel under the crossover, because Suzuka is an actual figure-of-8 circuit, among other things. It does cross over itself over and under. And I have seen accidents that carry on through into the tunnel.
There must be a Honda trait. When they design a track, they build some tunnels in there as well.
They do like a tunnel, those Honda designing. Yeah, well, the tunnel here is, or what goes over the track, like at Monza, is the banked bit. Monza is famously 2 tracks, a road circuit and a banked high-speed oval, and that's exactly what Motegi is. To my knowledge, they've never done what they used to do at Monza, which was run a lap, which was a lap of both all in one. You used to be able to run a full 10-kilometre lap at Monza, which was once around the banking, then all the way around the track again, and you sort of crossed over down the main straight.
Well, that is interesting, because there's that rumour, which is probably just exactly that they're looking at perhaps using the oval next year for a shootout for qualifying. But as we were talking about before, it'd be a bit of a shot in the dark for Yokohama to have to develop a tyre for that.
I can imagine Yokohama being about as pleased with that as the Formula One guys were going to Indy and then discovering that in fact they had done something to the track surface that changed all the data. Gabriele Tarquini goes fastest again, and that 1:56.7 is comfortably the quickest lap that anybody has produced at the track this weekend. Tarquini at the top of the pile, Muller second fastest, and timing again stuttering to update itself. Mehdi Banani third quickest. Did have a little ponder in free practice as to where Banani might find himself. Potentially the car has got, or should have, pretty much as much pace as any of the other cars. It looks different, it's in different sponsors' livery, but it's run by the same team as Ma's car. And Ma now goes on top of the pile. 45 thousandths, not a big margin, is it? It's looking very close.
It is. Those top 4 are all on the same 10th, aren't they?
And Greg de Moustier, 8th quickest. What knowledge does he have of this track? Maybe that's the confidence that has finally been sort of creeping into him during the season.
Yeah, it's a good effort that. He's been doing quite a lot of testing throughout the season as well, so perhaps that's all paying off.
Yeah, and having 6 or 7 weeks of, quote, summer holiday, it's maybe a chance to get in behind the car and actually start to really build some feeling with it. On board with Tom Chilton.
Just outside the bubble at the moment, but 6 minutes remaining. There's plenty of time to get a lap.
John Philippi goes up to 16th at the expense of the world champion Jose Maria Lopez. Do not expect him to still be 17th. I did say he can pack up and go home and won't lose the lead of the championship. Didn't actually think, he will pack up and go home and actually lose the lead of the championship. But starting 17th in both races would be tantamount to the same thing.
He's been a little bit off the pace of his teammates this weekend already, though, hasn't he? I mean, I'm sure that, you know, won't translate over the whole weekend, but in FP1 and 2, he was P8 and P10 respectively, and now maybe he's just struggling a little bit here.
Yes, because habitually during the season he has made a bit of a point of being pretty quick in almost every session, if not the fastest.
It may be that because he's in that comfortable situation, Citroën you know, going conservative on his engine map to make sure he doesn't have any major reliability problems.
I wonder if he knows that.
Yeah.
Tom Chilton goes 6th quickest, bumping teammate Coronel outside the top 12. We've had this fight before, haven't we? I mean, it's not a fight, it's a, you know, they're each trying to get into the top 12, but we have had a situation at least once this season in the very final knockings of the session where Tom Coronel was right on the bubble and Tom Chilton has got in, and his teammate as a result has been pushed out.
Here's Lopez on a lap, fastest first sector of anyone, and pretty close on sector 2.
Yep.
A full 10th up in sector 1, so that is quick.
Katzberg and Huff on the bubble. How long ago was it? 10 minutes ago that Nick Katzberg was fastest. Huff has left the pits and is going out for another shot and needs it, because Lopez is not going to stay 17th, which means Huff is out and Katzberg will be 12th when he sees the monitor. 3/10 back after sector 3.
Yeah.
And still gets pole, or the fastest lap at least, at the end of sector 4. Now that has got to be a worry, because we saw that in the free practice sessions, that the twiddly bits at the end of the lap, sector 4, Lopez finds more than anyone, and he's done that before.
Yeah, he must have made a mistake in sector 3, because there's not really much to it. There's one big stop, quite a tight right, and then a fairly open right, so I don't see where he would lose 3/10 there. It must have been a bit of a sideways or something.
Well, he's been behind before, but he can definitely find stuff in sector 4 that nobody else has got an answer to. Nico Lapierre finding this very different from a Toyota prototype in every way imaginable. It must feel to him like the world is in slow motion, and yet the damn thing won't stop the way he wants it to, and won't turn the way he wants it to. It's like going historic racing, Harry. You've got to totally change what you expect from a car, and that can't happen in 2 30-minute sessions.
Yeah, and as sticky as these things are for how big they are against a prototype, it will feel very lethargic and heavy, and it'll be moving around a lot, probably more than you would find in a prototype. So everything will feel like it's in slow motion, but it's also probably a bit of an assault on all of your senses, thinking, why is it going so sideways? I'm going around this corner half the speed I think I can.
Exactly, yeah,
doesn't
not
seem
even.
to be sticking.
Yes. And you know, and that's the problem, isn't it? Is that he needs to basically have a setup given to him by somebody who has spent a decade refining his own front-wheel drive style, and you've got to think that'll pretty much be Rob's setup on the car, Rob Huff's setup.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Rob Huff's setup wouldn't work for Ivan Muller, and wouldn't work for Tom Coronel, and wouldn't work for Jose Maria Lopez. But it's all that Nico Lapierre knows at the moment, is how Huffy likes it and how twitchy or not twitchy he prefers the car.
It's a great way to learn as well, because he'll have Huff set up and he'll be able to use Huff's data, which he knows that the car's capable of doing that, and then he might find from there, once he gets used to it a bit more, he can then fine-tune it and think, you know, I don't quite want it to do this in this corner, and I want to change that a little bit, and then develop his own style.
Coronel very upset, because he's just been sent out and he has not got time to get round and do a lap. He'll be 15th on the grid at best. Really annoyed. This is his home race weekend, Japan. Lived here for 5 years, loves the country. He's won races at this track before. Look how much Rob Huff gets the rear to rotate on that car, really sliding the tail end through the corners, and
right over that curb there, wasn't he, just before the drop-off.
Something that Nico Lapierre is definitely not doing yet, and that means that he is scrubbing the front, and Rob, like the other drivers who are very experienced in these cars, likes the tail to move around to save the front end. You've got to make it, never mind let it. Lapierre at the moment with a 6th fastest lap. So here's the best place to the Larders. Huff and Katzberg both outside the top 12. So for all we're saying that he's having to drive a car that he doesn't really know, he's tested it for 2 days, not here, and he's got somebody else's setup on it. He's still been able to wrestle a time out of the car. And Huff goes 12th, he's only just in. That is danger zone, with half of those who are looking at the drop still out on track. Montero, quicker lap from him. Katzberg might be the danger man for Huff, though. He's on a quicker lap as well. Montero goes 5th. Well, that seals him in the top 12. Valente and Huff are in the drop zone. Katzberg 14th is out. This could be really tough on Rob Huff. He could be the only Larder that doesn't make it through into Q2. Well, John Phillippe's not, Stefano D'Aste's not, Tom Coronel isn't. Checkered flag is out. Does Katzberg move up from 14th? 6th position, Huff's out.
That's a mega lap, wasn't it?
Wow. Katzberg is in and Lapierre is in and Huff is out.
That's got to be pretty frustrating for Rob, I would imagine.
No kidding. Hugo Valente only 12th. Now, who else? Huffy hasn't taken the checkered flag. Is he on a lap?
Yeah, I think he might be, because I saw his second sector in that previous lap was quite far down on the pace, so maybe he was just calming it down and trying to save the tyres a bit.
He's through sector 2 and he's not gone green yet, so it is not a better lap. Coronel is going to get to the checkered flag, and in fact hasn't even bothered. He's in the pits and he will be inconsolable. Good luck to Alex if she's going to go and talk to him, and I'm sure she'll try to, but might want a couple of minutes. Thiago Montero yet to take the checker, but he's in. Bernani is in. And Norby is in as well. So Lopez Mar, Tarquini, Loeb, Bernani, Montero, Katzberg, Muller, Lapierre. Norby 11th, though. Wasn't much to spare there, was there? Chilton 10th and Valente in 12th place. They will be the cars that go through into Q2. Huff misses the boat, and so too does hometown hero Coronel. Question marks over Norby's pace as well. He's been quick up until now, but not so far in this session. So Zoltan Zengo, his team boss, looking a little nonplussed.
He had a bit of a moment on the last curve there. He seemed to grab a bit too much curb and had a big drift, so I wonder if that's where his time loss has gone.
Q2 will start in 1 minute, but first let's get down to the Larder garage and see if we can find out what happened to Rob Huff's speed in Q1.
Yeah, down here with Huffy, he had a very, very disappointing P2 and also qualifying. Sorry to interrupt. What happened?
Just struggling with the car. I think fundamentally, we missed free practice 2 because we had a problem with a fuel pump. And that's the run where you put the fresher tyres on and really feel what the car's doing. And we missed that. And we just had a really snappy turning oversteery car. And it's coming where you want to get on the power and drive the car through the corner, and you can't because you're saving a slide still. So yeah, disappointed because I feel I got the most out of the car for how it was, but it's just not our day.
Really frustrating. Thanks.
Well, he's pretty sanguine about it. He's had some ups and some downs, but let's hear from Tom Coronel.
Q2 just begun, and sitting here with Tom Coronel, not the seat you wanted, Tom.
No,
Where do you lay the blame in these situations? This has happened to me quite a few times over the last couple of years, I seem to remember.
Yeah, it seems like just the timing we start to forget a little bit. Was a small discussion going on if we could make the third outing. Then we said, okay, go for the second one then. We made a setup change, which was just completely the wrong direction. I couldn't accelerate at all. I noticed it directly. And then you know you are in the shit. And the third outing we were just too late. So no, we were in big trouble. You know, I have new tires waiting for me, but I didn't use them. So that was a pity.
Especially here in Japan, where you've had so much luck in the past.
Yeah, well, we were for sure aiming on P10 because we knew it was possible. But I'm sitting here while they are driving.
Hard luck.
Very bad, yeah.
Fairly major frustration there from Coronel, but it's understandable, and these things are so fine, you know. There's only a couple of seconds out that made him not be able to get back out on track and maybe put a faster lap in, so you know, you have to rely on your team to supply that information, and occasionally it is going to go wrong, and you know, occasionally they make a mistake like all people do.
Well, Harry, this is where we're now going to see the real Russian roulette, and there could be some more long faces after this qualifying period, because 2 of the top 12 who go through into Q2 are shooting not for the top 5 to go through into Q3. They're aiming for 10th place to try and get on a good position for the race 2 grid. Nick Katzberg and Thiago Monteiro have both got a really tough job on their hands now. Fast laps started in Q2 here in Motegi, a 10-minute session for the fastest 12 cars out of Q1. From 13th, Rob Huff on down. Those positions are sealed for both races. It is double jeopardy if you miss Q in qualifying in Q1. In Q2, 11th and 12th will be 11th and 12th in both races. It's the top 10 where all the jiggery-pokery happens. Fastest 5 in Q2 will go through into Q3, and then their positions after the end of Q3 will decide the top 5 spots on the race 1 grid. From 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in this session, that will be your race 1 grid. But 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in this race, or in this qualifying session, will be inverted. And so 10th place in this session will be pole for race 2, and the pole sitter for race 1 will be 10th for race 2. So it's a very antediluvian system, very Byzantine in its complexity, and constantly needs reminding everybody exactly how it works. However, it's what we've got. And so you've got 2 parties here. Those that are shooting to be in the top 5, Jose Maria Lopez would be 1. And those that are aiming for 9th and 10th. And of the 12, you've got to think probably it's about an even split normally. Half of them think they've got a shot at the top 5, the other know they haven't or don't think they have and are aiming for 10th or 9th. But because of circumstance, we've got at least 2 cars in, Nick Katzberg and Thiago Monteiro, who know that top 5 is no use to them at all, because they've got a grid penalty. They'll be at the back of the grid for race 1, whatever else happens. So, I mean, the small mercy for Rob Huff is that one of his teammates will give him a place back, and so will Thiago Monteiro, because they'll both be at the back of the grid. So Huff won't start 13th, he'll start 11th, and a little closer to the points. But
like you said to there before, Martin, it's very, very difficult to aim for those final 2 places, 9th and 10th, without dropping below that and being 11th and 12th and having a pretty difficult weekend. So yeah, big skill in doing it, but the engineers can kind of call it when, you know, they put their first 2-3 sectors in. You know, if you're a little bit too far down, they can tell you to hurry up in the final sector, but obviously you can only do that to your maximum ability anyway.
yes. So the way to do it is to kind of go too fast and then try and slow down to the bogey time, and I hope that the bogey time actually is 10th and not 11th. And you know, we've seen it by 100th or 200ths, and that's impossible to really not to have guessed the right number and not to have calculated the right number, but to be able to cross the line within 100th or 2 of a second of the time you need is when you're trying to hit a time rather than trying to wring every hundredth out of the car, it seems to me to be harder.
Yeah, it's all very, very easy to say, like, you know, back off, drop a tenth, but how do you drop a tenth? You know, I'm sure they will have worked it out. I'm sure that, you know, you drop your revs to 4,000 RPM and get straight back on, it will count as a tenth of a second or something. But you know, it's pretty.
And it's silly, isn't it? You know, we are talking a tenth of 1 second, less than the time it takes to blink your eye. So yeah, it is flinch off and on the pedal, and that's probably more than a tenth.
Yeah, which is fine until you've gone.
And until you've done, until you need to do less than a tenth,
Yeah.
Drop 700s. How am I going to do that? You know, how much earlier do you get onto the brake pedal to lose 700ths of a second? Who can possibly know? Somebody knows somewhere. Quinquamar is fastest. Sebastian Loeb second, Norbert Michelis third, Mehdi Benani fourth, and Ivan Muller fifth. Katzberg won't be aiming for the top 5, so he won't be disappointed with that yet. What about Lapierre? That'd be a heck of a story, wouldn't it, if he ended up putting it in the top 5 in his first ever drive in the car. That would certainly bear out Hugues de Schonach's faith in him, which seems to have been transferred to Viktor Shapovalov. If you wonder what Hugues de Schonach's got to do with the whole deal, well, Orica not only build the engines for this car, they're now more involved in the engineering side as well, suspension setup and design of the Lada Vesta going forward.
That makes sense. I wondered where the connection was as to how he'd ended up in the car.
It's the Orica connection.
Did you hear the split? It just clipped the ground there.
Yeah.
There's some big stops here around this track, and obviously that initial hit on the brake pedal, you could hear the dive in the car. The split had just hit the ground. You might hear it again here, maybe.
Getting the maximum out of the brakes. I mean, and that's a downforce brake, isn't it? You know, with maximum downforce, you just leap on the middle pedal with both feet. And again, you can see there the splitter actually hit the deck.
That's an amazing amount of dive, actually, isn't it? Like, you know, there are some big stops here, so they've obviously, looks to me like they've set it up so it has a little bit more dive on the brakes.
He has gone away from the fast time, 1.2 away.
It sounded like he was in the limiter there, just in the third sector, coming off that final corner as well.
0.5 away is 5th place. Nick Katzberg 1.7 away in 6th. And who is that just emerging from the pits? Sebastian Loeb, who is in the top 5. What's he doing? What's he doing out on track with 1:40? He's not going to get round to start another lap, so that's just a redundant lap unless he's scrubbing in a tyre or something or other.
Yeah, maybe he's just taken off the release agent off his qualifying tyres, perhaps.
And also Honda. What's going on with Tarquini and Montero?
Yeah, it's a good
They've just left the pits. They're on out laps. They have not yet set a time. Are they going to be 11th and 12th? Well, Montero's not. He's going to be 16th or 17th in the first race, but if he doesn't get an ultimate hurry on, I don't know.
It's a bit of a risk as well, leaving it all to one lap.
Well, Tarquini's in sector 3, Thiago sector 2, 40 seconds remaining. Talk about brinksmanship. As you say, no second chance. It's just one lap if they get started. Lopez is 11th.
Tarquini P10 now.
Was that Muller we saw sitting in the car? He's in 5th. Lifetime's died again.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that as well. Lopez, here we go.
81 thousandths back, so he's not going to end up 11th, is he? Chilton 9th, Tarquini is 10th. Montero 3, 2, 1. Okay, so has Montero started a lap? I don't think he has. Lopez is twitchy all over the place. Loeb's taken the checkered flag. Chilton has just set a lap. He's 6th. Katzberg.
Lopez P3.
Lopez goes 3rd. So Mark, Loeb, Lopez, Michelis, Benani.
Montero doesn't really need to do a lap, does
Muller?
he? 6th.
6th. And is he on a lap? If only we had timing, that would be really useful. Montero is actually on a lap. Finally, Tarquini is almost at the end of his lap. Crikey. They don't half like to hang it out, these Honda boys. Tarquini bobbling around there between the final corners. Norby with a purple sector. Where's Tarquini? Not enough. Not enough.
No, Tarquini P6 there.
Doesn't make the top 10. Doesn't make the top 5 rather. And Montero, half a second away. Half a second away. 10th place at the moment is 1.9 seconds away. Nico Lapierre. Lapierre down to 11th as Norby improves again. And
P1.
where is Thiago? Slow to the line, and 8th place.
That was exactly what was going on there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The little lift off.
Didn't quite lift off enough. Had a gamble, but he had to have a gamble because Muller is still on a lap.
So is Valant.
And so is Valant, and that might be enough. Yes, Muller goes up, so Montero remains 8th. So Muller was already ahead of Montero. Will Valant bump him? Nico Lapierre, good job. And Nick Katzberg in 10th place, and that's why the Lada boys were so happy. They had judged that really well, and they didn't play brinksmanship at the final moment either. So Norby is fastest. Top 5 go through. Mikulits, Mar, Loeb, Lopez, Bernani. Note the missing name there. No Ivan Muller in the top 5. He scores a 0 in qualifying. Again, loses at least 1 more point to Lopez, who must score at least 1. Q3 begins here. Mehdi Bennani warming up.
Mixed feelings in the Lada garage. Rob Huff not qualifying into Q2. Nicolas Lapierre slowest in the Q2, but pole for race 2. Nicky Katzberg, good feeling.
Yeah, exactly what we wanted, basically, because the first race we have to start last. So we said, okay, let's focus on P10. But to be honest, you know, you're never focused on P10. You want to do as good as you can. And I made some mistakes. In the end, finished P10. So now I'm obviously very happy with pole, but it should have been a bit better.
Over the last month, you've been racing all sorts of cars. Do you feel like you've really got on top of this Lada now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, race by race, we're getting better and better. And I must say, I get a lot of help from my teammates, the whole team. So we're improving, and that's a good thing.
And bringing Nico Lapierre into the team?
Yeah, he was super fast. So he's doing a good job, I guess.
And nice to have him as part of the team.
Definitely, he's a good driver. I mean, he won Le Mans, so that's always nice to have someone like that in your team.
Congratulations, Nicky.
Thanks.
A little bit of weaving of the tyres for Mehdi Bennani, and Harry Folkard into the top 5.
Yeah, it's... Here we go, it's his one lap shot, isn't it?
Disappointed Gabriele Tarquini, but on the other side of the garage, this was your plan, right? To be as close to 10th as possible.
Yes, exactly. I mean, once we had this problem with the engine before the weekend and we had to change, my qualifying is a little bit messed up. Therefore, you have to use the strategy and the rules to your advantage. Therefore, okay, race 1, I'm going to start last, but we need to try and start as front as possible in race 2. So 10th position was the aim. It's always a big gamble, so I'm not too unhappy with P8. I think first or second row was the goal anyway.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, Mehdi Bennani in his first top 5 shootout of the season. Might actually get to see a bit of it in a moment as well. Now he will start in the top 5 for race 2, wherever he finishes here. Worst he can be is 5th. And that then, of course, will leave him in the bottom of the top 10 for race 2. So if he ends up 5th here, he'll be 6th on the race 2 grid, 4th, 7th, and so on. Interesting, Banani, winner of, has won races in the World Touring Car Championship, but has struggled to get as much out of the Citroën this year as the other Total team Citroën drivers, the other 4 of them, and there's kind of a little bit of a question mark as to how much or how little of it is down to the car and how much and how little of it is down to Banani, and whether his car, because it is an independent car and because it's
a last year car as well, isn't it?
Yeah, how close it is.
There's got to be subtle differences, I would imagine, but it may not even be things that Banani's aware of.
You know, how much would Lopez get out of it, for instance? I mean, that's always the question, isn't it? How much would Loeb get out of it?
Yeah, and all this testing that the Citroën team have been doing over the summer break, you've got to wonder what they found on that car, on that platform, and whether that's been transferred over to Banani as well.
I'm sure that one half of the Smash and Loeb Racing Garage is getting all of that, because that's Ma, and he is a Citroën factory driver. As Banani gets to the line, 1:55.83.
That's a fast lap.
We are establishing a new lap record here today, because it's the first ever visit to Motegi for the championship. Jose Maria Lopez in the unusual position here of being second out in Q3. Usually he will be among the last to go, if not the last to go. I mean, habitually, don't we see everybody standing there looking a little slack-jawed as he pulls out another one from the sock drawer that they never knew was possible.
Yeah, well, this be interesting to see here, because he has been a little bit down on his teammates so far.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that, as you alluded to, Martin, is down to the fact that he's so far ahead. Does he really need to push to the very, very limit? You know, he will be aware of that, but
I don't know. I just think it's going to be hard to stop himself.
yeah, it certainly wasn't the case last year when he built a fairly big lead and people thought, right, he's going to start backing off now. He just definitely didn't. 10th up, sector 1.
Yeah. And it might be sector 4 that's the killer.
Well, sector 3 was where he lost his time earlier on, but as we said, we thought that might have been a mistake because it was 3/10 and it's a pretty short, fairly straightforward sector.
I mean, the one thing you get in this format is that it is a single lap, all the pressure, and none of the, no assistance from a tow or anything else, no traffic in the way, so there's no bonuses, there's no excuses though either.
It's that one lap though, isn't it? One tiny little mistake can make the difference between pole and not being on pole. But the car will be fully balls to the wall as well, running on its death map on the best tyres, on the highest cambers. This is as fast as these will go, really.
3/10 up on Banani already. Sector 3 lost a little bit. Now as he comes down, this is where he makes it all up somehow, and maybe it's his ability to carry the speed through those last 2 fast corners, or not so fast corners. Comes across the line from a quarter second up, only 1500ths up, so he lost more time there to Banani. Ooh. There's his girlfriend Victoire in the shades. Little ripple from the Citroën mechanics. 1:55.6. I'm not sure that's pole.
No, I don't think so. Loeb's been quick this weekend, hasn't he? So
yeah,
this could be it. Although, will it be enough to stop the Honda? Because that's really on one.
All sorts of little stories. We're still waiting for Citroën to decide how they're going to realign themselves with regard to rallying and touring cars. Yves Maton was saying to us before the summer break that the decision would be made, one or the other. And he said whatever happened, Sebastian Loeb would not be going back to rallying. So he might do the odd rally, a Monte Carlo or a French round or something that he fancied a bit if he fancied it, but it wouldn't be germane to Peugeot Citroën's decision as to what the Citroën team do. There's been talk of the fact, or the concept, that Loeb might well stay in the World Touring Car Championship even if the factory Citroën team didn't.
Well, I thought it was quite interesting, Muller testing and actually doing that rallycross event last weekend in a Citroën as well. You know, maybe that's definitely grown massively in popularity. Perhaps that's a route that they're looking at.
Yeah. Well, you would think for Loeb that would be tailor-made for him. It's rallying and it's racing, and it's a chance to beat Petter Solberg again.
Yes.
Got all sorts of you know, apples dangling there, but maybe he considers this is still unfinished business. And if Sebastian Loeb Racing were running quasi-works or even privateer Citroëns, then Ivar Muller would have to find some sponsorship to come and join.
Yeah.
He's still behind Lopez. Unless he finds a quarter of a second somewhere. And then another quarter, and he hasn't.
No.
So this puts Bernani's lap into a good light, because at the moment he's behind Bernani. Because Lopez was a quarter second up after sector 3 and dropped to 1200ths or so after sector 4. And I think Loeb is going to go third fastest unless he's found something special. He has found, by 300ths of a second.
Yeah, that's very,
Wow.
very close.
A 1:55.80 for Loeb, a 1:55.83 for Bernani. So Bernani is fast this weekend in his Citroën. So what about Mar? What can he produce? Time to aim for is a 1:55.6. If he goes purple, he'll be in front. If he doesn't, he'll be behind.
It's mega close for a relatively long lap.
So at the moment we've got Citroëns 1, 2 and 3. And of course, next time they go racing in Shanghai will be Mar's home race. Close enough here in Japan that the friends and family can fly out relatively easily. Riding those nice low curbs. You can hear the rumble there from the rumble strips on the camera, but they are really very low, proper motorcycle style curbs here.
Yeah, they'll not cause any issue running over them. They're just painted lines almost, aren't they?
Yeah.
Some of them have got quite a big drop off the back of them though, so if you do run a little bit wide, then, although we've not really seen much of that going on.
No, been pretty neat. So a couple of looping spins, but or little grassy moments.
There's quite a big curb strike right at the end, the final corner.
Yes.
But I think again that's dropping over and beyond the curb.
It's that last little wriggle, isn't it, out of the tunnel, 13 and 14, where you just and part of it, maybe the way the reason it looks so dramatic is you are going from one lock to the other.
Yeah, and quickly as well.
Yeah.
Certainly wouldn't be allowed on a Palmer circuit anyway.
3/10 behind, so third place at the moment. But not now. Drop behind Bernani now. Can he find something again in that final element? Under the bank circuit, the other ring here at Motegi. And this is where...
Bit of a mistake there.
A bit of a lock-up.
I think that's going
Not
over.
carrying the speedway. I'm not sure he's going to get in front of Bernani. I think he's going to be fourth. And at the line, he is.
So Mitchell, what's he got up his sleeve?
1:56.08. This could be highly entertaining for Norby. First man to win in the Honda in the new regulations. And he still has the possibility to put the car on pole.
We always thought the Honda was going to be fast this weekend, but obviously Norby's the only one who's managed to make it into this final shootout. But we know that Tarquini made a little mistake. We were saying beforehand, you know, he left it down to that one final lap, and he did make a little mistake on it, which is, it's a gamble, and it is the risk that you take, I suppose, because you're not taking anything else out of the tyre. But you know, it's a bit of it's left him out of Q5.
Yeah. And Montero was never aiming for that, so it was only ever going to be Gabrielli who had the chance, and like Tom Coronel, miscued that. Different reasons. Twitchy as you like on turning, and listen to the tyre squeal.
You could see the front just pushing on there. I think maybe a little bit too much on turning in turn one there, but might have got away with it time-wise.
Norby's usually such a tidy driver. Feeling the heat and humidity in the cockpit, clearly.
And the pressure from Honda as well, I would imagine, at their home circuit.
Look at that. Yeah, Few is right. 24 thousandths of a difference. This is Honda's home race, of course, in Japan, but even more significantly, this is a track that Honda built as recently as 1997. So, as much as everybody regards Suzuka as Honda's home track, this is Honda's home track as well. And that is nice and smooth. The car all of a piece, H.
Yeah, you could just see the compliance from the rear end there, just as it's drifting around, just nicely following the front round, but a little bit sideways. He didn't have a lot to play with on that curve either, did he?
Only the inside lettering on the tyre was over the curb there, I think. But that was a nice line. Zoltan Zengo with everything crossed, and Norby with the pole halfway around the lap, from 24 thousandths behind to 31 thousandths up. 78 thousandths of a second. It's not even a tenth. It's much less than the blink of an eye. Oh, and you can hear the circuit commentator getting very aerated. Got to be absolutely clinical here. That looks like a really nice line, but is it too neat? Is Norby going to put a Honda on pole here in Motegi? At the line, he does by 800ths of a second, rather.
How close?
Zoltan Zengo and his engineer Gergely embrace 0.08 of a second. Get in, Norby.
That was a mega lap, wasn't it? He really deserved that.
Yep.
You could see he was right on the edge from the first corner.
Well, well, well. No. Try again. Lap time might have been right, but the name wasn't. 1:55.596 is the new lap record set by Norbert Mikelish as he grabs the DHL pole for race 1 here in Motegi. And on pole for race 2 will be Nick Katzberg. So we have a Honda and a Lada.
With a sandwich full of Citroens in between.
Yeah. That's the unspoken gorilla in the room, isn't it? That's the Citroen team bunched and muscling their way through in race 2. And Norby's going to have to make a heck of a start, because look what he's got behind. No friends and family there at all, are there? Lopez, Loeb, Bonani, Marr. Those will be the first 4 cars in his mirrors. He'll probably be able to see some of all of them.
Yeah.
Just be a blur of red and white, won't it?
I know it's going to be tough. He'll have to get his elbows out, and there are a few overtaking possibilities around here as well. Some big stops and changes of direction, which lead to good racing. So it should be quite an exciting race, I think.
I think Citroen have shown more in qualifying than they showed at any stage in free practice.
Pachito, throughout the free practice sessions, the Citroen team, the pace didn't look like it was there, but you proved that there was pace.
Yes, it was a difficult first session, especially for me, because I finished P10 and and I didn't know exactly what it was. I had a little bit of hope that maybe my tires were not good enough like the others. And yeah, when I put the new tires in qualifying, I felt much better. I knew from the beginning that the Hondas were going to be quick here because it's a circuit where you need traction, and they are very good on that. Surprisingly, the two officials stay off, and finally Michelis did a fantastic job. I want to congratulate him. It was a very close qualifying, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy because after the free practice I was a bit too much worried. The two guys are fighting with me in the championship. My two teammates are behind me, so still a pull out. So if I can do a good 2 races tomorrow, will be good.
Does the championship play on your mind a little bit, knowing that you want to preserve the lead as much as possible?
Of course, of course. I mean, this is like a pole for me. I mean, I have Ivan, who is P7. He lost 4 points with me now. He's 59 points. So for me, it's a very good result. I know. With the team, we want to be first all the time. Unfortunately, it's not possible. But I think we did a pretty good job. You know, we have to take in count. We have 60 kilos, the other have 0. So very proud of the team. Very proud of Seb, Ma, Ivan. Everybody did a good job, and we are still there.
Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good work, and of course the best way to preserve your championship lead is just to attack as hard as you can. So that's what Lopez will do, I'm sure, for the remaining races,
like
as he
Peter
has
had
for
it
all
in
the
bag,
others.
But my goodness me, Norby, that was absolutely fantastic. Talk to us about it.
I honestly don't know what to say. It's just so many memories from 2013, where the weekend was exactly the same. I just don't know what to say. I did maximum, so I don't think I could have been 200 or 300 faster, but I just had to give everything because I know it's an important event for Honda. And with this, I think it can be an important step for the future.
Well done, Norby.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations being passed by Rickard Rydell as well, who's watching back home in Sweden and will hopefully join the championship soon as possible. So Norbert Michelisz, our pole sitter from Jose Maria Lopez for race 1. Lobanani, Ma, Tarquini, Muller and Montero, the top 8. And Chilton and Katzberg round out the top 10. From Hugo Vallant in 11th on down, everybody starts both races in those positions. So Rob Huff in 13th, Tom Coronel in 15th, with the exception of race 1, where Nick Katzberg and Thiago Montero will start on the back row after engine changes. And all of that comes up live on Eurosport on Sunday. Don't forget, wherever you are, you can join us for all the action live on Sunday. And cars will be heading out to the grid at 10 to 2 local time. Race 2 gets underway at 2:15. Subtract 9 hours from that, and that is 5:15 UK time. Jose Maria Lopez adds 4 more points to his lead over Ivan Muller. Muller not making the top 5 again, and Lopez will start on the front row of the grid for race 1. Must capitalise, because he's going to have to try and get by Muller to outscore him in race 2. It's not beyond the bounds of possibility, but it's something he would prefer not to have to do if he doesn't need to. So those are the official championship standings. Norbert Michelisz, of course, as a